Have you ever knelt down to pray with a sincere heart, only to find yourself battling against sleep, against the weariness of your body, or against scattered thoughts that seem to come from nowhere? Have you felt that heavy pull of exhaustion in the middle of a rosary, during adoration before the Blessed Sacrament, or even during Holy Mass itself? And afterward, have you felt a sharp pang of shame, wondering if God felt offended or ignored because you drifted off while trying to speak with Him? This experience is far more common than you might think, and for many faithful souls, it generates profound guilt. The fear of being negligent with God, or that falling asleep reveals a weak or shallow faith, haunts the minds of countless believers. You might have asked yourself, am I not devoted enough? Does God think I don't care? Am I failing Him? These questions circle in your mind like persistent whispers, creating a wall between you and the peace you seek in prayer. But here is the truth that might surprise you, and it is a truth rooted deeply in Catholic doctrine. The Christian vision of prayer is far more compassionate, profound, and relational than it is punitive or demanding. God does not stand over you with a scorecard, marking down every moment your eyelids grew heavy or every second your attention wavered. He is not a harsh taskmaster waiting to condemn you for the weakness of your flesh. Instead, He is a loving Father who understands your humanity far better than you understand it yourself. The real question is not whether you stayed awake every single moment. The real question is, what was in your heart when you came to pray? Did you desire to be with Him? Did you show up even when you were exhausted? Because if you did, then you have already begun to understand what prayer truly is. And this understanding will transform not only how you pray, but how you see yourself in God's eyes. You need to understand something fundamental about how God sees you. When you come before Him in prayer, He does not measure you by the standards of perfect performance, unwavering attention, or flawless execution. He measures you by something far deeper, something that no human eye can see, the intention of your heart. The Catechism of the Catholic Church reminds us that prayer is a battle, a combat against our own limitations and the distractions of the world around us. Think about this for a moment. Even when your body betrays you, even when sleep overcomes your best efforts, what matters to God is that you showed up. You made time for Him. You desired to be in His presence. That desire itself, that longing to commune with the divine even when your flesh is weak, is already a form of prayer. God does not reject the exhausted soul that falls asleep in His presence any more than a loving mother rejects a child who dozes off while nestled in her arms. This is not a matter of lowering the bar or excusing laziness. This is about understanding the true nature of relationship with God. When you love someone deeply, you do not count every imperfection in your time together. You cherish the fact that they chose to be with you. God cherishes your choice to be with Him, even when your body cannot keep up with the willingness of your spirit. Have you ever considered that your very struggle to stay awake during prayer might be a sign of your love for God, not your failure? The Catholic tradition has always taught that God penetrates beyond the surface, beyond appearances, and looks directly into the human heart. 1 Samuel 16:7 tells us, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." When you drift into sleep during prayer, God does not see failure. He sees a soul that came to Him despite exhaustion, despite the demands of daily life, despite everything. And that touches His heart far more than you realize. Now let us go deeper into this mystery. What if I told you that falling asleep during prayer could actually be transformed into something beautiful, something that reflects a profound spiritual truth? Stay with me here, because this is where Catholic teaching reveals its tender wisdom. When a small child is being held by their mother or father, and they drift off to sleep in those loving arms, is the parent offended? Does the mother push the child away in anger because the little one could not stay awake? Of course not. In fact, the opposite happens. The parent's heart melts with tenderness. There is something profoundly trusting about a child who can fall asleep in someone's arms. It shows complete security, total abandonment, absolute confidence that they are safe and loved. Now imagine this. You are that child, and God is your Father. When you fall asleep during prayer, after coming to Him with a sincere heart, you are showing a form of trust that goes beyond words or conscious thoughts. This is not about being careless or disrespectful. This is about the kind of relationship where you do not have to perform, where you do not have to be on all the time, where you can simply be yourself in all your weakness and limitation and know that you are still loved. The Catechism teaches us that prayer difficulties, including distraction and dryness, are part of the spiritual combat we all face. But these difficulties do not separate us from God unless we allow them to make us give up entirely. If you are commenting on this video right now, I want you to type these words: Lord, I trust you even when I am weak. Go ahead, write it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now so you can continue receiving teachings that will deepen your spiritual life. You need to hear this message again and again. Your weakness in prayer does not make you unworthy of God's love. It makes you human. And God does not love you despite your humanity. He loves you precisely as the human being He created you to be. But we must be honest and clear about something important. Not all sleep during prayer comes from the same place, and Catholic doctrine calls us to examine our hearts with sincerity. There is a difference between falling asleep because you are genuinely exhausted after giving your best effort and falling asleep because you approached prayer with carelessness, without reverence, or simply going through the motions without any real desire to encounter God. How can you tell the difference? Ask yourself these questions with brutal honesty. Did I make time for God, or did I squeeze Him into the leftovers of my day? Did I approach prayer with a sincere desire to be with Him, or was I just checking off a religious obligation? Did I try to create conditions that would help me focus, or did I set myself up for failure by praying in a way or at a time that I knew would make it nearly impossible to stay attentive? These questions matter because they reveal what is truly happening in your heart. If you consistently fall asleep during prayer because you are deliberately choosing the most inconvenient times, or because you're not making any effort to be present to God, then the sleep might be revealing something deeper, a lack of reverence, a spiritual indifference, or perhaps an unconscious resistance to entering into genuine relationship with the divine. In these cases, the falling asleep is not the real problem. It is a symptom of something that needs to be addressed with humility and honesty. However, and this is crucial, even in those situations, the Catholic response is not condemnation or crushing guilt. It is an invitation to conversion, to a gentle turning of the heart back toward God. The spiritual life is not about achieving perfection on your own strength. It is about continually returning to God over and over again with humility and trust. Even when you recognize that your approach to prayer has been lacking, the answer is not to beat yourself up. The answer is to acknowledge it, ask for God's grace, and begin again with renewed love and commitment. So what does God actually care about when you pray? Let me tell you plainly. Drawing from the deep wells of Catholic spiritual teaching, God cares about your desire to be with Him. He cares about your faithfulness even when your body gives out. He cares about your perseverance in returning to prayer, even after you have fallen asleep 100 times before. He does not measure the minutes you stayed conscious. He measures the love that brought you to prayer in the first place. Think about the people you love most in your life. What matters more to you? That they perform perfectly in every interaction with you, or that they genuinely want to spend time with you? If someone you love is exhausted but still makes the effort to be present with you, does their tiredness make you love them less? Or does it actually move your heart that they chose you even in their weariness? God feels the same way about you, except infinitely more so, because His love is perfect and His understanding of your limitations is complete. The Catechism reminds us that the difficulties we face in prayer, including physical tiredness and mental distraction, are part of the normal spiritual journey. These struggles do not disqualify you from God's presence. They actually become the very context in which your love for God is tested and proven authentic. Anyone can pray when they are well rested, focused, and feeling spiritually elevated. But to come to prayer when you are exhausted, when you can barely keep your eyes open, when you have given everything to the demands of your day, and still choose to give God even those final moments of consciousness, that is love that moves the heart of God. Are you beginning to see how different this is from the harsh, judgmental voice that may have been condemning you? That voice telling you that you are not good enough, that God is disappointed, that your prayer does not count if you fell asleep. That voice is not the voice of the Holy Spirit. The Spirit speaks with truth, yes, but also with compassion and encouragement. The Spirit reminds you that your Father in heaven knows what you are made of. He remembers that you are dust, and He does not expect from you what you cannot give. He only asks for what you can give, your heart, your desire, your yes, even when it is whispered through heavy eyelids. Now let me take you to one of the most profound moments in all of Scripture, a moment that speaks directly to this question of falling asleep during prayer. It is the night before Jesus dies, and He has taken His closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus is about to face the most agonizing hours of His earthly life. He is in such distress that He sweats drops of blood. And what does He ask of His friends? Simply to stay awake and pray with Him. But what happens? 3 times Jesus returns from His prayer, and 3 times He finds them sleeping. They could not stay awake even for 1 hour. Can you imagine how Jesus must have felt? In His moment of greatest need, His closest companions could not keep vigil with Him. But here is what matters. Look at how Jesus responds. He does not reject them. He does not condemn them. He does not say they are unworthy to be His disciples. Instead, He says something profoundly compassionate and deeply true. Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Matthew 26:41. Do you hear what Jesus is saying? He acknowledges both realities. Yes, the spirit is willing, your heart wants to be present, you desire to pray, you long to stay attentive. But the flesh is weak, the body has limitations. Physical exhaustion is real, and Jesus, who took on human flesh and experienced human limitations, understands this completely. He does not condemn the disciples for their weakness. He simply invites them to keep trying, to keep returning, to keep watching and praying. This is the heart of Catholic teaching on this matter. God sees your willing spirit. He knows that you want to be with Him. He understands that your flesh is weak, that your body grows tired, that you face very real human limitations. And He does not hold this against you. Instead, He calls you to perseverance, to keep coming back, to keep trying, to keep offering yourself, even when you feel like you have failed. The disciples fell asleep 3 times, but Jesus kept coming back to them. And after His resurrection, He did not exclude them from His mission because they fell asleep in the garden. He entrusted them with spreading His gospel to the ends of the earth. The Catholic Church, drawing from 2,000 years of spiritual wisdom and guided by the Holy Spirit, has developed a remarkably compassionate and realistic understanding of prayer and its difficulties. The Catechism of the Catholic Church addresses this directly when it discusses the challenges that every person who prays will inevitably face. It does not pretend that prayer is always easy or that spiritual life is a smooth path without obstacles. In paragraphs 2725 to 2729, the Catechism speaks about the battle of prayer and acknowledges that we must face within ourselves and around us erroneous conceptions of prayer. Among the most common difficulties are distraction and dryness. Notice what the Church is saying here. These difficulties are common. They are normal. They are part of the spiritual journey that every believer walks. You are not alone in struggling with these challenges, and you are not failing some test that everyone else is passing. The Church teaches that distraction reveals what we are attached to, and that recognizing our distractions is the first step in offering our hearts to God. Even our inability to focus perfectly becomes an opportunity for growth in humility and trust. The Catechism reminds us that prayer is not about achieving a perfect state of consciousness or maintaining flawless attention. It is about turning our hearts to God again and again in love and trust, regardless of how imperfect that turning might be. Furthermore, the Church has always taught that contemplative prayer and silent adoration before God can take many forms. Sometimes the most profound prayer happens not in words or even in conscious thoughts, but in simple presence, in the desire to be with God, even when we cannot articulate anything specific. When you fall asleep in God's presence with a heart that sought Him, you are exercising a form of trust and abandonment that is actually quite advanced in the spiritual life. You are not trying to control the experience, not forcing yourself into some ideal state, but simply being yourself before the one who loves you unconditionally. So what should you actually do when you find yourself falling asleep during prayer? Let me give you concrete, practical guidance rooted in Catholic spiritual wisdom. First, and this is crucial, do not waste time in self-condemnation. The moment you realize you have dozed off, do not spiral into guilt or shame. Those feelings do not come from God. They come from either your own unrealistic expectations or from the enemy of your soul who wants to discourage you from praying altogether. Instead, the moment you awaken, whether during the prayer time itself or after, simply and gently return your attention to God. Say something like, "Lord, I came to you because I love you. My body grew weary, but my heart is still yours. I offer you even this sleep as a gift. Thank you for welcoming me just as I am." Do you see what this does? It transforms the entire experience from one of failure into one of trust and relationship. You are not pretending the sleep did not happen, but neither are you letting it define your prayer as worthless. Second, consider making a practical offering of your tiredness before you even begin to pray. If you know you are exhausted, tell God honestly, "Father, I am so tired right now. I may not be able to stay awake, but I want to be with you anyway. Please receive my desire as my prayer, and if I fall asleep, let it be in your arms." This simple act of honesty and surrender changes everything. You are no longer trying to hide your weakness or overcome it by sheer willpower. You are bringing it into the light of God's presence and entrusting it to His mercy. Third, and this is important, if you consistently fall asleep during prayer at a particular time or in a particular posture, consider whether you might need to adjust your prayer practice. This is not about giving up or being weak. It is about being wise and realistic. If you know you are completely exhausted late at night, perhaps morning prayer would serve you better. If you always fall asleep while lying down, perhaps kneeling or sitting upright would help you stay more alert. You can honor both your desire to pray and your body's real needs by making practical adjustments that set you up for success rather than frustration. Here is a powerful spiritual practice that can revolutionize your relationship with prayer. Learn to offer everything to God, including and especially your limitations, your tiredness, your imperfections. Catholic spirituality has always taught that nothing in human experience is wasted when it is given to God. Even your exhaustion can become a prayer if you offer it with love. Before you begin to pray, especially if you are very tired, try this. "Jesus, I offer you not only my words and my attention, but also my weariness. I offer you the effort it takes just to show up right now. I offer you my heavy eyelids and my foggy mind. I offer you everything, and I trust that you receive it all as an expression of my love for you." When you pray this way, you are no longer fighting against your tiredness as if it were an enemy. You are including it in your offering to God. This transforms your entire experience of prayer. Now, if you fall asleep, it is not a failure, but part of what you have already offered to God. Your sleep becomes wrapped up in your gift to Him. And when you wake, whether minutes or hours later, you can simply continue the conversation. "Lord, I woke up. I am still here. I am still yours." There is no need for elaborate apologies or lengthy explanations. God already knows your heart. He already received your offering. He already treasures the fact that you came to Him at all. The saints understood this profoundly. They knew that the spiritual life is not about being superhuman or transcending all physical limitations. It is about bringing your full humanity, including your weakness, into loving relationship with God. When you offer your fatigue as prayer, you are participating in the mystery of the incarnation itself, where God united Himself to human flesh with all its limitations. You are saying, "This is who I am, Lord. This is all I have to give right now, and I trust that you receive it with love." Can you imagine the freedom this brings? You no longer have to be perfect to approach God. You no longer have to pretend you are stronger than you are. You can come to Him exactly as you are, with all your tiredness and limitation, and know that you are still welcomed, still loved, still heard. This is the heart of Catholic faith, a God who does not demand that we be perfect before we approach Him, but who invites us to come as we are and trust that His grace will do what our strength cannot. We have traveled together through these reflections, and now we arrive at the most beautiful truth of all. When you fall asleep during prayer with a heart that loves God, with a spirit that sought His presence, with a desire to be with Him even though your body was exhausted, you are doing something profoundly spiritual. You are resting in the arms of your Father. You are exercising the kind of trust that God delights in, the trust of a child who knows they are safe and loved. This is not laziness. This is not disrespect. This is not spiritual failure. This is abandonment to divine providence. This is trust made tangible. This is love that does not depend on perfect performance, but on genuine relationship. And God receives this trust with tender joy. He looks at you, sleeping in His presence because you were too tired to stay awake but too loving to stay away, and His heart is moved with compassion and delight. You tried, you showed up, you gave what you could, and that is enough. That is more than enough. That is beautiful. Remember always, God measures your prayer not by how long you stayed conscious, but by how sincerely you desired to be with Him. He counts not the minutes of alertness, but the moments of love. He values not your strength, but your trust. And when you understand this, when you really let this truth sink into your heart, it changes everything. You are free to pray without the burden of perfectionism. You are free to come to God in your weakness, knowing that His power is made perfect there. You are free to fall asleep in His presence and trust that even your sleep becomes prayer when it happens in the context of love. So tonight, when you kneel to pray or sit in that quiet moment before the day ends, remember this. God is not a taskmaster waiting to mark your failures. He is a Father waiting to receive you into His arms. Come to Him, even if you are exhausted. Speak to Him, even if your words are stumbling. Stay with Him, even if your eyelids grow heavy. And if you fall asleep, let it be in His embrace, trusting that He watches over you with infinite love, cherishing the fact that you came to Him at all, because that is what prayer is truly about. Not perfect performance, but loving presence. Not flawless attention, but faithful desire. Not staying awake at all costs, but trusting that whether you wake or sleep, you belong to Him, and His love for you never wavers. May you carry this truth with you always. Lord, if I fall asleep while praying, let it be in your arms, because it is in you that I want to rest. May your prayer life be marked not by guilt, but by trust, not by shame, but by love, not by fear of failure, but by confidence in God's mercy. Go in peace, beloved child of God. Your Father is pleased with you, not because you are perfect,